Well, now to an update to a story we brought you over 2 years ago about a family who feels the education system is leaving their child behind. This was Carter Churchill over 2 years ago, and this is him today, still smiling. He's grown, but his family says little else has changed when it comes to his education. Carter has cerebral palsy, and he also is deaf, but has cochlear implants that allow him to hear. His only mode of communication is American Sign Language, or ASL. Carter now has a full-time teacher trained in ASL by his side in class, something he didn't have before, but his parents say their son needs more.
We feel that children like Carter should have equal access to an equitable education as hearing children. We feel that hearing children and deaf children should have the same right to an education, and we object strongly that deaf children are being neglected in our education system currently. The School for the Deaf was closed in 2010, and after that there was numerous commitments made by the government of the time to maintain the same level of support as children would have had at the School of the Deaf, and that just is not happening. And it's really tragic because they're being deprived of their culture and their language. So we challenge that, and after a lot of discussions with a lot of different entities, we finally were forced to open up a human rights complaint because we just were not getting any traction on the issue. Well, if you're a parent of a hearing child, first of all, you are going to be guaranteed you're going to get a teacher every year. For Carter, it's very difficult to get that type of assurance. So you're in this endless loop of year to year. You never know if you're going to have that again. Because there's just no guarantee, absolute assurance you're going to have it. So that's a little stressful, and it's constantly a weight that's hanging over us and other people in the same situation.
How is it determined whether or not he'll have a teacher who knows ASL full-time?
I guess it comes down to availability, and that's an issue that we have large concern about, because many of the teachers in the system right now are ex-Newfoundland School of the Deaf teachers, and they're all approaching retirement age. So we feel in future there will be a shortage of teachers, and then parents will just be told there isn't anybody, and your child will be deprived of an education.
There's 326 children who are deaf or hard of hearing that are in the school system right now, and these children are not receiving the support and services that they have a right to and that they need in order to be successful. These children were forced in a mainstream system, a mainstream school that was designed and developed for hearing children only. So right off the bat, you've got a system set up that is essentially set up to fail children who are deaf or hard of hearing. Children that are like Carter, who are using ASL and require that as their first language, are not having access to their language. They are not having access to having anyone in their classroom that can have a meaningful conversation with them, because sign language is not even approved to be learned in any of the schools. So it becomes a situation where these children are being isolated, they're being neglected, their mental health is being extremely affected, and they don't have any peers.
So frustrating when you have to fight for everything, and you have to explain the most common things like, yes, his teacher needs to know ASL because he speaks ASL. Like, you shouldn't even have to explain that one. That should be so intuitive that yes, the teacher must speak the same language as him. Like, that's super frustrating. We obviously want more emphasis on learning his language. His second language will be English, his first language will be American Sign Language. So we want more emphasis on learning his language through a student assistant that we would prefer be a deaf person who's fluent, whose native first language is ASL.
All hearing children pick up incidental learning, because whether they're in a classroom and they're hearing conversations happen around them or they're witnessing it, Carter never is exposed to watching and witnessing two people actually interact and conversing with one another. And he's missing out on a huge opportunity there to learn what it's like to be able to actually have a structured sentence, have a structured conversation, and be able to have that communication going back and forth.
I think it's fair to say, I don't think that when you decide to become a parent, one of the things that you think about is, am I going to have to open up a human rights complaint to get my child an education? Our resolve is very strong. We are prepared to take this as far as we need to take it, and if that means Supreme Court of Canada, so be it. We will take it that far, because while to other people Carter is a case number, he's a student with a number, with an ID, he's just a faceless student. He's very much more than that to us. And we will take it as far as we need to.